She always said, I hope that one day when you grow up and when you get older that you won't blame me for your relationship with your dad. And I would say, of course not, Mom. Why would you say that? Of course I won't. It's all my decision. It's all my beliefs. You're not making me believe anything. And now it makes me a little sick to realize that she was purposefully getting me to assure her that I was caught in her trance.
Some of my first memories of my childhood were of my mother telling me that my father didn't love me.
I felt closest to my mom when we were talking crap about my dad.
If I rejected my dad, I felt like I was getting my mom's approval.
Question, do I really know this person? Are they actually who my alienator said they were?
I had this overwhelming sense of having to protect my mom.
In her mind, she truly believes everything she's saying, that my dad was a terrible person all the time.
I did start asking questions, and I did want to fact check.
Hi, and welcome back to the Anti-Alienation Project. I'm Maddie, and here I discuss all things related to parental alienation. So fun, so fun. I was alienated from my dad for 20 years. I figured everything out about a year and a half ago. Now I've been speaking out about this form of abuse, raising awareness, and fighting against alienators. Today I wanted to do a more relaxed sit-down video, because often I do script out my videos and try to edit, so it's the best that I can do. I'm still learning every day, but I kind of wanted to make one that's more relaxed and I can just talk and not really have to edit it as much. And I thought that something that maybe some targeted parents might be curious about is the beginning of the alienation process. Again, I'm not a professional. I'm not a therapist. I'm just someone who has the lived experience of this stuff. So I am just one person as well. This is not to say that your child had the same experience or that all kids who are alienated go through what I'm about to explain to you. This is simply what happened in my case. If I think back to my childhood, I think the denigration against my dad began much earlier than I ever realized. I remember it began very subtly and slowly. You know that quote about the frogs being boiled in the water? Like you can put a frog in water, and if you turn the heat up slowly, it will not realize it's being boiled to death and it'll just stay in the water. But if you throw a frog in boiling water, it'll hop right out. Well, alienator is the person who puts their child into regular cold water and then slowly turns the temperature up. I think that she started to turn the temperature up. Let's see. When we moved into the lake house. Yeah, when we started to live at the lake house, I think the temperature had been definitely turned up. Enough for me to realize something was happening. And it would start with the smallest of comments. For me, it was not so much overt. It was very covert. Comments like, I wish your dad would take you to do something fun, like he's always taking the boys to do baseball. But at least I get more time to spend just mommy and Maddie time, you know? So she would point out the differences in treatment whenever they occurred, if there were actually differences in treatment or not. I don't really know. I don't think so, but she would point it out. But when it started, it really didn't start with her bad-mouthing my dad or telling me anything that she would eventually tell me, which was really serious allegations and, really hurtful things I can't imagine ever telling my children. But it started with two things that I can identify now, which really I do think apply to a lot of cases, and that's number one, parentification, and number two, victimization. So, parentification, she relied on me from the time I was very young, to comfort her emotionally, to take care of her emotionally, to be there for her, and I was conditioned to pick up on every subtle or not mood shift. I was walking on eggshells. I was just trying to take care of her, make sure she was okay, please her at every turn. It got worse and worse, like as the temperature was turned up. Alongside that, with the parentification is the victimization. So when my parents would have arguments, you know, they both made mistakes. So he would, for example, yell at her and she might yell back, but after the fight was over, I would see my dad stomp away. He seemed angry, he seemed cold, he seemed bitter, and he seemed closed off. And then my mom would still be there with me, crying, you know, mentally, doing terribly mentally. And I was responsible for making her feel better, for trying to get her to stop crying. Naturally, as a child, I think that made me feel really bad for her and simultaneously scared of my dad maybe, or frustrated with my dad for making her have these emotions. So that's how it initially began, with the parentification and the self-victimization on my mom's part. There were other things that happened that allowed the alienation to solidify more and more. And some of those things off the top of my head were my dad moving out of they had two homes at the time, so he would move to the lake house for periods of time. And during those times, my mom, she created this environment and these ideas in my head that were really unsettling. Like, you know, she could have said everything was going to be fine and the dad would be home. He just was staying at the lake house. But no, the story I was told was that we don't know if dad's coming back. He might not come back. He doesn't care about you. Also, she didn't protect me from the depths of her own despair. There was nothing that was off the table in terms of shielding me from at 8, 9 years old. It really did become, in my mind, a matter of life and death. I wanted my mom to continue to live. And when I think about how my relationship with my dad as a young child went from really close and special, and we just naturally got along great, had a lot of fun times, special times together. It's hard for me even now to know how it went from that to having an anxiety disorder because I was so scared to see him, and being diagnosed with depression at the age of 9 because I was so destroyed that he didn't love me. How does that happen? Like I said, the frog was in the water heating up the whole time, but the frog didn't realize it. It was also enforced by several other people in my life. My grandma, my mom's mom, she believed everything about my dad and enforced it. And there is power in numbers. I don't care what anyone says. If it's just your one parent telling you these things, the child will believe it. But if it's your parent and the community and your friend and your parents' friends and your other family members telling you these things, of course you're going to believe it. If it's like 10 against 1. Anyway, so that was another thing. So like periods of times away, other family members and friends enforcing the idea that my mom fed to me about who my dad was. I'm sure there are many other factors as well. It was the parentification, the self-victimization. And a quality about me is that I do speak my mind. I do stand. It's one of my core values to stand up for what I believe in. And in my mind, my dad had abused my mom and hurt her, didn't love me. So in my mind, if I were to go with my dad, I would be giving the stamp of approval on abuse. I would be giving the stamp of approval. It's okay to not love me. It's okay to not love mom. It's okay to abuse mom. You know, it's okay to be a terrible parent. In my mind, by not going with my dad, ironically, I was standing up for justice, truly. Because I thought he was abusive. I was made to believe he was a monster, and I wasn't taking my mom's side in my head, but I was standing up for truth and justice in my head. That's how the parent brainwashes the child to believe that all of their decisions are their own decisions and they haven't been influenced in any way. I'm trying to think about other things that I can remember from that time. One thing that I've thought about quite a few times is that I wish I had been taught at a young age that it's not okay for one of your parents to talk badly about your other parent, or that it's not okay for your other parent to not want you to have a relationship with the other parent. And it's so difficult because some parents really are abusive. But even in those cases, I don't think that the parents tell the child, Daddy doesn't love you, Mommy doesn't love you. I'm trying to remember if there was ever a time where I was confused. I think the alienation was solidified much sooner than my dad even realized. I think that what was going on in my brain and my emotional, mental health was so much worse, so much earlier than my dad realized. Because when I think back to those times, I know how much turmoil he was in. My dad has had a really good life besides this. So I think this is the biggest trauma that he's ever been through. And I do remember he was pretty destroyed and distraught. And I don't blame him for not picking up on the signs earlier or taking it more seriously. He probably thought that Maddie would come around, or, never expected that my mom would be telling me the things that she was actually telling me. I want to make it clear, I don't blame my dad at all. I do wonder sometimes why I didn't go to him the first time. And I know the answer is that damn frog in the water. It happened so slowly, so insidiously, so carefully that it wasn't necessarily even told to me. My brain was like put under a trance, and just slowly my view of my dad changed to the point where I thought I would be not only betraying my mom if I were to have a relationship with him, but that I would also be signing off on injustice. Looking back, there are a lot of things that I remember my mom saying to me that as an adult I can say that I think she was saying those things out of a place of a little, maybe feeling guilty, maybe feeling scared she was going to get exposed. I don't know. She always said throughout the decades, I hope that one day when you grow up and when you get older that you won't blame me for your relationship with your dad. And I would say, of course not, Mom. Why would you say that? Of course I won't. It's all my decision. It's all my beliefs. You're not making me believe anything. And now it makes me a little sick to realize that she was purposefully getting me to assure her that I was caught in her trance. She was trying to get me to assure her that she still had me under her thumb. Do I think back on those times and wish things had been different? 100%. People ask me all the time, is there anything that your dad could have done, that anyone could have done earlier to save you from having to go through all of this? Maybe in the early stages. Yeah, maybe in the early stages, maybe. But I think like most targeted parents in that point in their life when they're like, what's up and what's down, you're a shell of yourself. You don't know parental alienation exists. You can't comprehend that the person you've been married to, the person you have children with, would brainwash your child to reject you. You can't comprehend it. But I think that's why early intervention is key, because once things are really solidified, that's when you might be alienated for life. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below how you enjoyed this more casual sit-down video. Since I started the channel, I was posting more personal things at the beginning, and then I started branching out with news and media and covering research studies and interviewing other people. And I wanted to just get back to the original, how I was talking to you guys personally and sharing my own experience. If you can take away anything from this video, let it be all the traps the alienator uses to slowly boil the frog in the water so the frog doesn't realize they're being boiled alive, which is self-victimization, parentification, any time alone with the child or absences where the targeted parent leaves, and enforcing the fabricated versions of reality by friends and family members and other people in the kids' lives. Please give this video a thumbs up to get it in the YouTube algorithm so more people can see it. And if you like what I'm doing here, please subscribe to my channel. If you would like to support me in any big ways, stay tuned because we have a big launch coming out November 14th. 2023. There's been so much going on behind the scenes with the Anti-Alienation Project that I'm so excited for everybody to discover. I hope it goes well. I'm praying it goes well. Stay tuned for that because we have a lot of exciting things on the horizon. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.